Good evening, Ilona. It's been such a pleasure getting to meet you and know you over the past couple weeks. I'm so thankful for Gabriel introducing us. I am honestly really excited for this interview because I think we're going to show a lot of individuals watching that finance and financial literacy don't have to be complicated. So before we begin, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do for a living?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your platform. I totally believe in your mission, and I'm so excited to partner with like-minded, awesome individuals who are trying to really expand financial literacy to more communities. About me, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. My parents and I are immigrants, so I was born in Cuba. My father is Cuban, and my mother is Russian. Logical, natural, I know. Um, we immigrated to the US when I was 5, and we settled down in Louisville. So that's really where I call home for the most part. I was fortunate enough to attend the University of Pennsylvania for my undergraduate degree, where I studied economics, mostly finance. And that really kickstarted my career into financial services. So I've spent the bulk of my career doing investment management. I started with the financial planning and analysis team at Netflix out in the Bay Area before transitioning over to an investment fund in New York City. Decided to go to business school, and I went to Northwestern Kellogg and received my MBA last summer, which in hindsight is like great timing because I don't know when people are going to walk again for graduation.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, now I work at a large asset management firm, doing more like strategy and things like that. But spent the bulk of my career in financial services, and realized in working in financial services that I was pretty personal finance illiterate, and that's really what kind of propelled me to start this journey.
And it's funny, I talk to a lot of people that think, oh, just because you got a degree in finance means you're automatically personally financially literate. And you're right. Unless you specifically go out and try to get that information, you're still going to be illiterate in that capacity. And I absolutely love what you're doing with your platform, Bear in the Bull. Can you tell everyone a little bit about why you decided to create it and what you do with that platform?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't just a coronavirus like spur of the moment thing, even though it was born in in quarantine. Um, as I kind of got older and started talking to more of my friends about personal finances, I noticed that a lot of them would come to me with different questions, from things like, "Hey, how much should I save in my retirement?" or "What's
Mhm.
a 401k?" and even things like, "Do you think kids are cost effective?" And I was like, I mean, actually they're not, but that's not why we have kids. But but these are friends of mine who are super intelligent, like PhDs and lawyers, just really smart people. But I think I found that they felt like intimidated by the language of finance. And so I would just find myself explaining. I was like, well, that's an interest rate, or that's why it's important. And I finally kind of put together that I could be a helpful resource because I guess of my conversational style, maybe how I talk to people. I was pretty good at breaking complicated things down into an easy to digest format. And so that's what inspired me to start Bear in the Bull. I had always wanted to be like an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what I was going to do it in. And so this seemed like, I was like, well, all I have to do is write. So it started as a blog, and I figured, okay, I'll just write about, different finance topics and explain things. And oh, I speak Spanish, and so cool, I'll write them in Spanish and English.
Mhm.
And through that, it really became like an evolution. So now I still write for Bear and the Bull. I now write for Forbes, which is really exciting. And I have a podcast series called Money Memories, where I talk to people about kind of like their money journey by reflecting on their earliest recollection of it. So it started off as just, oh, I have this thing that I do for my friends anyways, let me write about it. And now I think it's evolving into, finding like a unique voice in the personal finance community.
I think you're right. And it's funny that you mentioned you were kind of that hub for people to ask questions, because that's actually how I started Mills Knows Bills as well. A lot of people were asking me questions, and just like we take the complicated or the finance specific verbiage and we really break it down into what it really is. Like escrow, it's like a savings bucket, or 401k is just a fancy way of saying employer sponsored plan, right? So it's taking these seemingly complicated items within the world of finance and making it, as you mentioned, easily digestible. And I think it's great that you have this platform and that you're sharing your knowledge. Um, that actually brings me into my next question. So what do you think is the most difficult part for someone that's trying to gain control of their finances and learn this information for the first time? Because as you mentioned, it's not just, a few people here and there. I feel like everyone kind of has the same feeling.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the most difficult part, and honestly, what inspired me to start my podcast was recognizing that money is, or our relationship with money is really like an emotional relationship. And it's, for some people, it's really not driven by logic or reason, but rather feeling. Because I realized when I started my blog, I was researching a post on, how to explain what a stock is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I mean, Investopedia already says it, and so does NerdWall, and actually Wikipedia does a good job too. So
Yeah.
I quickly realized that it's not like that there's a dearth of literature on this. There's a lot of explanations for what these things are. And if you really wanted to, you could just Google it and find it. So I was like, what value am I adding just defining things? But I had the chance to participate in this like Zoom webinar about people's relationship with money. And I learned, through those conversations, I realized like, it's really much more about how you feel about money or like your relationship to it. And if early on you have, let's say, like a quote unquote healthy relationship, you feel like you can really control it, and you realize that, hey, it's just math, it's just numbers. But if your own exposure is maybe like toxic, unpredictable, you start thinking of personal finances like a liability. And so my short answer to your question is, the most surprising thing I guess I've learned is just how much like emotion plays into it. And that's why I think it's really important for us when we write about finance or when we talk about it, is to recognize people's like journey and to recognize people where the people are on that path. Like, yes, saving is great and planning for retirement is awesome. And I know this FIRE thing is like really big deal. But I think that ultimately, like, there's, what's that saying? Like, there's many ways to like skin a cat.
Yeah.
Like, there's financial success can mean many things for many different people. For some people, it's just literally getting off food stamps. For other people, it's like, I don't know, owning a villa in Monaco. And like, who are we to say that one level of success is worth more than the other? So I think the most important thing is really to like check in with, what your relationship to money is and going from there. Because like, if saving comes naturally to you, by like, that's good, then by all means go and try investing. If saving is hard for you, please don't open up. No, we're not ready for that stuff. We need to start with saving, so it's definitely like, you need to honor your journey and respect that it's going to be different for everyone.
I think you and I could have an entire video on how money is driven by emotional feelings and reactions, because I talk about this with a lot of my clients, and I'm sure you have too, where you don't realize that what you were taught growing up is affecting how you are acting today with your money, or your perceptions of it, and why you don't set a budget. And you're right. So I'm going to stop it there, because I think you and I will have another conversation another day on that. But, maybe for someone that's going through that journey, or just in general, what type of advice would you provide them that's watching this video?
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite quotes of all time is by the legendary tennis player Arthur Ashe, and it's "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." And so I would say apply that to your own financial journey. Start where you are. Where are you? That like, do you have a bank account? Do you know the login to your passwords? Like, I sometimes don't. I reset that thing like every month because I'm bad. But that could be where you are today. Today it could be, okay, what do I even have? What are my accounts? And today it could just be writing down what all your assets are, how much is in different bank accounts, or even figuring out what accounts you have, because you might still have a like some kind of, I don't know, checking account from high school that you don't even use and you have like $50 in there.
Yeah.
So that's starting where you are. Use what you have. And so like from what you have, like if you find that you have debt, you know, find the interest rate on that debt. Do you have student loans? Are they federal? Are they private? What are the rate? You know, just start with what you have and do what you can. So depending on like where you are, like you'll develop a plan. And I think a good first step for anyone that anyone should be doing, regardless of their income level, is just calculating your net worth, which is calculating your assets and subtracting out your liabilities. So you don't even need a computer for this. You can literally write down a piece of paper, all your assets on one hand, add them up, write down all your liabilities on the other hand, add them up, and calculate your net worth, because that's really going to be I think the foundational starting point for every decision that you take after, whether that's paying down debt, planning to save a house, wanting to buy a car. Like all of that, I think, is really driven by that one key number.
I think you're right. And you bring up an excellent point, and that's you don't have to be perfect at everything right away. You know, I think there's this common misconception that because you and I talk about financial literacy or budgeting or net worth, that we have all the answers and we're perfect every single day with our finances, which I'm not going to speak for you, but I know for me, I'm not perfect every day. And
Trash.
Yeah. I mean, it is a journey and it can be difficult. So again, just to reiterate, anyone that's watching this video, like Ilona said, start where you can, and you don't have to put pressure on yourself to be perfect. If someone absolutely just resonates with you and they want to follow you and read your blogs and all of that, how can they contact you? What platforms are you on?
Yeah, so my primary hub is my website, which is www.bearandthebull.com. That's bear like the animal, BEAR, bull as in not the cow, a bull. Someone sent me a cow emoji for my blog, and I was like, don't insult, put respect on Bear and the Bull. It's not Bear and the cow, it's a bull. So that's BULL, Bear and the Bull. I'm also on Instagram at bear.andthebull, Twitter, Facebook. I'm on all of those. But like I said, really the main hub is Bear and the Bull. Feel free to listen to my podcast, Money Memories. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts. And soon my Bear and the Bull will have the link to my Forbes features. And so you'll be able to read those there as well.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I know that you and I were talking about how you're writing with Forbes, and I know you recently had one of your articles published. So congratulations. That's super exciting. And I think that finalizes my questions that I have for you today. I look forward to many more videos with you and supporting your platforms. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.